On today's episode, we are looking at the finances of a married couple. They are both 40 years old. The husband works as an artisan and the wife is currently on an unpaid maternity leave. They have 4 kids and they say they are buried deep in debt and they are looking for a way out so that they can have peace of mind and start building wealth for their kids. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Itumeleng. I'm a qualified management accountant. And on this channel, I help ordinary people like you learn how to start saving money, get out of debt, invest, and ultimately build wealth. If that is something you're interested in, please do subscribe and become a part of our growing, rich family. Now let us get into the finances of our lovely couple. The husband's take-home monthly is 40,000 rands. The wife, like I said, she's currently on an unpaid maternity leave, so her income is currently 0. When she's back at work, her monthly income is 17,000. She'll be back at work next month. For now, her income is nothing. They say they are waiting on UIF, but they haven't received anything as yet. Rental income 12,900 rands. They say they built some rental units in their village and that helps generate that extra income. That is a good amount of money and it really comes in handy during times like this when the wife does not get any income. In total, their monthly income is 52,900 rands. Now let us look at their savings and investments as well as their debt balances. Savings 0. With 4 kids and a newborn 0. That is a dangerous game to play. What are you guys relying on? How do you pay for emergencies? Because we know they are happening. We know you have emergencies with 4 kids. Forget 4 kids. With a newborn, forget a newborn. Being alive is an emergency. They said, oh, just move to the debt balances and you'll be answered. Okay. Now let's see their debt balances. Home loan 430,000 rands. The home loan is for the rental units. The home that they're currently staying in is free. It's paid by the wife's employer, so they don't pay anything towards rent, towards bond on their current home. Even utilities are covered. They were not nice to her by putting her on unpaid maternity leave, but at least they cover housing costs, which, we know can be a lot. So the home loan is just for the rental units. Car, 440,000 rands. They say this is a new car, a family car. You know how it goes. And then personal loans, 313,000 rands. What were the personal loans for? They said, no, we used to have a business. We attempted to start a business and we took out loans to fund the business and the business was doing really well. For a few years, the business was making a lot of money, but we didn't think about settling the personal loans that we took to start this business. We just spent the money and then things went really bad and the business had to close down and now we are left with the personal loans. Okay, but 313,000 is a lot of money. Was all of it for this business? Because if the business operated for a few years before it shut down, whatever payments you were making surely have reduced your balance. So how much did you borrow for this business? They looked at each other and they said, yeah, on top of the business loans, we also took out loans. Most, when you start getting one loan, one thing leads to another. And whenever we ran out of money or we needed money for something, we would get a loan. So that is why we have 313,000 rands. Okay. Credit card hubby, 21,000 rands. They wrote that for me. It's not me. Credit card wife, 13,000 rands. Truettes, 11,000 rands. Okay, Truettes credit cards, what are they for? When we run out of money, we will use the credit cards for some expenses. And when we run out of clothes, we are a big family, you can see. So when we run out of clothes, we use the Truettes account. Vodacom, 18,000 rands. What's there for 18,000 rands at Vodacom? As if I don't know. They say, yeah, you know it, ma'am. It's a pandemic. That is where I drew the line. I let them flow. I let them go with the personal loans that, other than saying it was for starting the business, a lot of it, they don't know what they did with. And then credit cards, and then Truewords. On top of everything that is going on, getting a pricey family car. In the middle of all that, you go and you get iPhone on credit. I thought we were not doing that anymore. I thought we were over the pandemics. We were entering new pandemics. We were getting to know a different kind of pandemics, things like game, an iPhone. An iPhone is not acceptable anymore. We are not supposed to be having iPhone debts. You see, it just goes and it just complicates things. It just adds on unnecessarily to the amount of debt we have. Municipality, 45,000 rands. How come? They said, no, yeah, we had a burst pipe, so that led to our water bill being really high. That's how we got there. Okay, pay just now 5,000 rands. It's when we got here, I said, what is it with you guys and debt? Why are you guys not afraid of debt? They said, well, it's not that we are not afraid of debt. I mean, who is not afraid of debt? Someone would look at this and think, these people run out of money, so they resort to debt. You don't run out of money, because the Vodacom, we did not go to Vodacom to get an iPhone on debt because we ran out of money. It was just because this is just another thing that we can get on credit. You like credit. You are not afraid of debt. I want to say this in my mother tongue. Ale Chavez Koloto. Why is Chavez Koloto? In total, their debt balance is 1,296,000. It's a lot. It's a lot of debt, and a lot of it all unnecessary. Like, if we didn't have Vodacom, it would be better. Not really, but it would be one less account to worry about. Let's look at their monthly expenses so that we can see if there's anything we can cut back on, reduce, so that we can be able to pay off the debt as quick as we can, because their main goal is to get out of debt, and we can understand why. It's a lot of debt for a whole lot of nothings, right? Monthly expenses, they started with Tithe. Again, I did not decide the order. They said Tithe 9,300 rands. Okay, break down the Tithe for me. They said 6,000 is for the husband, 3,300 rands is for the wife. The wife is paying Tithe. How? Is she not currently unemployed? Well, on unpaid leave. They said, yeah. Then how do you pay tithe when you don't have income? They looked at each other. They got uncomfortable. And the husband, 6,000, how do we get to 6,000? He said, no, it's 10% of my gross income. So I pay tithe on my gross. And then I was like, you know what? We are still at the beginning of this thing. I'm going to leave it alone. Hopefully, as we go down the other expenses, I'm going to find a way to cut back on other things. And hopefully, I never have to come back to the tithe, and I don't have to talk about it, because I can see, it's a touchy-feely subject. And it always is. I don't like talking about tithes. Sometimes I do, depending on the person. They looked really uncomfortable, like they don't want to talk about it that much. So I was just hoping I don't get to come back to the tithe. Groceries, 6,000 rands. That's fine. Car, 6,350 rands. Car insurance, 1,200 rands. Car tracker, 350 rands. Petrol to work, 4,000 rands. It's a lot of petrol. Transport for kids, 4,000 rands. Absolutely not. The transport for the kids and the petrol to work combined even exceed our car payment. That is a lot. What can we do about the transport for kids? Because your petrol is already a lot. And it's because, they have 3 kids that go to school, and transport people charge per child, right? But it's a lot of money and it's totally unacceptable. They say the kids' school is a bit far from home. That's why their transport cost is a little bit high, a lot more high. So I asked if it was possible for the father to take the kids to school. Would that not help reduce the transport cost? The father said, yes, it would, but it would delay me by about 10 minutes. And when I count the petrol, I think it would be an additional 2,000 petrol. Then we would have a saving of 2,000 rands. Okay, a 10 minutes delay is not that bad compared to paying 4,000 for transport. What we can do is we leave home 20 minutes earlier than usual, not even 10 minutes. 20 minutes earlier than usual, everyone gets into the car and we save 2,000 rands. So in our little recoupment fund, we have 2,000 rands saving from the kids and everybody leaving home 20 minutes early. Home loan, 3,000 rands. Vodacom, that is 1,500 rands that we could be recouping and putting towards paying off the loans. But okay, pandemic, 1,500 rands. FNB loan, 5,383 rands. Standard Bank loan, 6,050 rands. Electricity for the rentals, they pay electricity for the rentals and nothing for their home, like I said, 600 rands. Municipal debt, 3,000 rands. Gardener, 800 rands. Okay, tell me about the gardener. They say we have a big yard. We have a big yard, so we have a gardener that comes every single week to help trim the lawn, and just make everything really nice. Like our yard looks very beautiful. Okay, good for you. I hope you take pictures in that nice green garden because it's the last time you will see it. Well, unless you water your own lawn and you cut your own lawn, this 800 rands, we are going to post the gardener just temporarily while we sort out our house. You made your choices. You chose a pandemic. You chose an iPhone. You can't have an iPhone and a gardener and then be in a lot of debt and say you want to get out. So if you want to get out of debt, you will have to have a brown yard. And like I said, if you want a green yard, both of you have hands. The husband, that can be the husband's task because the wife already has her hands full with the newborn baby. The husband must learn how to water the grass and how to trim it. 800 rands into the recoupment fund. Helper, 2,400 rands. As the helper police. This is, we've seen some really shocking numbers. I've never seen anything like this. They said, no, remember the wife does not have an income. So this is all we can afford for now. So we cannot afford to increase it. Okay, was it more and then you reduced it because of the wife being on unpaid leave, or that's just what you've been paying her all along? They said, well, that's what we've been paying her even when the wife was getting an income. Nope. Anyway, it's fine with the helper because just like the gardener, we are going to pause the helper, and anything that she was doing, both of us can help each other. Pause the helper just until the wife goes back to work, and when she goes back to work, then she can come back and, then it makes sense. She'll be taking care of the baby while the wife is at work. Currently, we cannot afford a helper. That is why we are paying her so little. So we might as well just take back our 2,400 rands, get our house in order, and when the wife goes back to work, we can gladly bring back the helper, and hopefully when we bring her back, her salary would have improved. School fees, 5,500 rands. This is school fees for 3 kids. It's really not bad for 3 kids, but it's taking away a lot of money monthly. Month on month, 5,500 rands is a lot. I said to the husband, don't you get bonuses at work? He said, I do, monthly, quarterly, annually, I do. I do get bonuses very often. Okay, and what do we do with the bonuses when we get them? He said the monthly bonuses are not that big. The one that is big is the December bonus. Okay, what did you do with it? Because you did not pay debt, you did not pay school fees. What did you do with it? He just smiled, and the wife smiled, and I did not get an answer. So now going forward, the December bonus will be for school fees. Even if it does not completely settle the whole balance, it would reduce the 5,500 rands significantly. Bank charges, 250 rands, funeral cover, 800 rands, life cover, 360 rands. That is very little life cover for such a big family, but at least there's something there just for now. But when our things improve, we need to increase the life cover. Truettes, 700 rands, credit card, 1,750 rands. In total, their monthly expenses are 63,293 rands. What was their monthly income? 52,900 rands. So almost 53,000 rands. And our expenses are 63,000 rands. So month on month, they operate on a shortfall of 10,000 rands. So that means we need to be able to cut back 10,000 rands just to be in line, just for the income to match the expenses, not even to pay extra towards debt, not to save, not to invest, nothing, to just be in line month on month. I said, so if your monthly expenses exceed your income, other than the credit card, what do you do to survive? What do you do to stay on top of your debts? They said, yeah, we are not on top of the debts. What we do to survive is we skip some payments. We have not been paying anything towards the personal loans, the FNB personal loan, as well as the Standard Bank personal loan. We just decided to stop paying so that we can be able to just push month on month. Because as you can see, it's because we are affected by the wife not having an income. Okay, I agree that the wife not having an income is affecting them, because if we had that 17,000 that she gets monthly, we wouldn't be at a shortfall of 10,000 rands. We would actually have a surplus of about 7,000 rands, right? But this is where we are currently. How do we make sure that we make at least minimum payments towards the personal loans while we wait for the wife to go back to work, and then we are in a positive cash flow situation? We've already cut back on the gardener, the helper, as well as 2,000 rands from the kids' transport. And that's going to give us a saving of about 5,200 rands. That means we still need 5,000 rands to just be in line. There's nothing else that we can cut or reduce. With the personal loans, we can negotiate with the banks for reduced installments just until we are back on our feet, so that we can have a little bit breathing room. But because we are so behind, we hadn't been paying, and because interest and late charges have been accumulating, reducing the loan payments amounts significantly will not help us. We can reduce a little bit, but if we reduce them too much, we are going to be in debt for a long time. And we are saying our goal is to get out of debt. So now, I hate to bring it up, but can we talk about the tithe? The husband was like, oh, what about it? That one, we don't talk about it. The wife started smiling uncomfortably. She was smiling like, you can't talk about that. And, honestly, I didn't want to talk about it. I told you guys I didn't want to talk about it. I thought we were just going to be able to get our 10,000 and, kumbaya. But here we are. Why can't we talk about the tithe, sir? Would you not consider reducing the tithe a little bit temporarily while we, sort out the stuff and we wait for the wife to also return to work? Again, first of all, the wife pays a tithe of 3,300 rands, yet she has no income. What is that about? Where does that come from? He said, yeah, that one we can leave out, because, tithe is supposed to come from your income. So, but we have just been paying because we are used to it. It's just a practice that we do in our family. So 3,300 rands from the wife's tithe is going to go into the recoupment fund, and that gives us 8,500 rands. Still not enough, right? So I have to go back. I'm like, okay, we're going to take out the 3,300 rands from the wife's tithe. And what about yours? Any chance of reducing? And at this point, all of us are uncomfortable. You guys can imagine, things like these are tough to talk about. He said, because I pay my tithe on my gross, which is 60,000, so I pay 6,000 in tithe. What I will do is, which is something that I've been thinking about for some time, is to start paying my tithe on my net, which is 40,000 rands. So I'm going to reduce my tithe from 6,000 to 4,000 rands. Okay, that gives us what? An additional 2,000 rands. Remember, we needed 1,500 rands so that we can get that 10,000 rands shortfall. So we received 500 rands extra. Good news, right? Really, really good news. And I said, okay, any chance of reducing the tithe again? He said, no, you're pushing it now. I said, what is it about this tithe and not being able to reduce when we are in this situation where a lot of money from the tithe could really go a long way? Like if we just paid 1,000 into the tithe temporarily, while we sort out our debt, because that money could do big things. He said, no, I made a commitment to God to always pay my tithe, because God says, bring my tithe so that there may be food in my house. I said, but there's no food in your house. He said, that's true, and that is why I'm reducing it, isn't it? We are reducing the tithe from gross to net, and my wife will stop paying tithe until she receives an income. So we have reduced. Anything more than that will not happen. Okay, so now with everything that we were able to cut back, excluding the tithe, which was really hard work, we are now in line. Our income is able to pay for our expenses, pay for the debt. We are no longer going to be behind on our Standard Bank and FNB loan. But then we have nothing. We have nothing to save, nothing to pay extra towards the debts. And our goal is to get out of debt. When you want to get out of debt and you have that much debt, any extra payments you can make towards the loans really help. So what we can do temporarily is negotiate for the FNB loan and Standard Bank loan payments to be reduced a little bit, just 1,000 each, and we get back 2,000 temporarily, just to get a little bit of an emergency fund residual cash in the house, because you can't have 4 kids and you have nothing. You don't even have 100 rands. So that 2,000 rands can just be our emergency fund for the next 2 months while the wife is still on maternity leave. At this point, we are not in a position to make big savings or even pay anything extra towards the debt other than the minimum payments. But when the wife goes back to work, there's that 17,000. Well, from the 17,000, I don't know how much she's going to pay towards the tithe, but whatever is left, for example, if it's 14,000, we can put 4,000 rands towards building an emergency fund, and 10,000 rands can be used for extra payments towards the loans. What we are going to do with the loans is debt snowball them, list them from smallest to biggest, and just start tackling the small ones, get them out of the way, and then eventually we will get to the point where we significantly reduce this balance. If we can get to the point where Vodacom, Truwords, municipality pay just now and the credit cards are out of the way, then we will really start to see light, and we will be a step closer to being debt free and building that wealth for the kids. Please let me know your thoughts on our couple in the comments. If you found value in this episode, please like the video. It really helps my channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, I hope you have a rich day.